Today on the Runna Podcast, we had one of our favourite episodes ever. We spoke to the incredible two-time Olympic gold medalist, Helen Glover.
From complete novice to Olympian in 4 years, Helen was ranked #1 rower in the world. She then retired from the sport to have children and returned to become the first ever mother to return to the sport and medal at the Olympics.
She's gone on to pave the way for women in sport and was an absolute joy to talk to, a complete inspiration, and her work ethic gives us all something to learn from. You're going to love listening to today's episode.
Hey Helen, how are you?
Good, yeah, really happy to be here.
Oh, we're excited to chat to you. The way we start all of our podcast episodes is what got you moving and into health and fitness on day one?
I feel like sport has always been in my blood. As far back as I can remember, if you were to ask my friends, what's Helen like? They would say she's a sporty one. I just loved physical activity. And I don't really know why that was, whether it was being outdoors, which I love, whether it was being competitive, which I've always had a competitive streak, whether it was finding out like how far I can push myself or whatever it was. I've just always loved being involved in sport and movement.
And what sports did that take you to in those earliest years?
So actually my first love was running. Absolutely loved running. I remember being at primary school and like challenging boys to races in the playground and absolutely loved running. I think the simplicity of it as well. And then hockey, swimming, netball, anything I could get my hands on. I was really lucky to grow up in a sporty family, in an outdoor environment. We were always outside. And I think in the early years, lots of the things that I now look back and go, well, actually it was training, was actually me playing it with my brothers on the sand dunes where we grew up in Cornwall and we were always out doing that kind of thing. And so I think a lot of the physical activity I had wasn't necessarily structured, but I look back and I think what an amazing base to have created.
And you mentioned your brothers. Where do you sit in? How many siblings do you have? Do you have sisters? And which number are you?
So there are 5 of us.
Okay.
So I've got 2 brothers, one older. I've got a twin brother myself, and then I've got 2 younger sisters. So I was kind of always, I think without them knowing, I was always trying to beat my brothers at everything. They're not massively competitive, so they're probably like, I'm this annoying girl trying to win everything.
Aren't there loads of, sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but aren't there loads of twins in like our British rowing team?
Yeah, it's mad. When I went to London, I think there were 5 women who each had a twin, but none of us had our twin on the team. So I don't know if there's something in that, which is weird because normally rowers are big, are tall, twins are often a bit small, but I wonder if there's something in that competitiveness, or always having someone to do something with maybe.
Well, I think so much of what makes people great, and I mean, like, you're clearly phenomenal at many different things, but one of that is that competitiveness, which I think you almost like naturally have from an early age, as you mentioned, but then it's also compounding practice. And probably when you start these sports as a young person, naturally you might end up being better than your peers because you've been kind of racing after your twin or your older brother, etc. And without realizing, just through play, you've got a head start, which then means that it's really fun because you're great at it, which then furthers that positive feedback cycle, and you're off to the races in a way, and then you've got to compound that with many, many years of perfect everything else to come.
I actually think that hits the nail on the head because, I feel like it takes the pressure off me a little bit. Now I'm a parent and I look at my kids and I look at, should they be doing this many clubs and sports and different things? And I go, actually, no, they're playing, they're running around. And I would much rather they find a love for sport in an organic way than I feel the pressure to sign them up to everything and ensure they're doing all the practices, because I'm like, no, it's more important that they love what they do and they'll find it. And like you say, through play, through discovering the enjoyment of moving, I hope that they will find it at some point in their lives.
Yeah, and I guess at the same time, you couple all of that. Like if you don't have the love of it, it will never lead to greatness. And so therefore not even that the greatness is the thing that matters, because probably the thing you want with a child is for them to be healthy and happy. And if we can find a way for them to learn that moving their body in sport or running or whatever it's going to be is enjoyable, that'll lead to consistent long-term practice and probably greatness. And no matter how much you probably push a child to go and do something, if they don't love it, they won't consistently do it into that young adulthood where they probably need that autonomy and self-motivation.
I think so. And I do think that a lot of people who maybe don't find that love and enjoyment when they're younger, who forget their PE kit so they don't have to do PE, who do all these things, actually they get to adulthood often and discover what they do really love, because maybe they didn't have the opportunity when they were younger, maybe they didn't have the confidence, maybe they didn't have the support, whatever it is that was preventing them from finding why they want to move. Loads of people, and I think that is a great thing about the Runna app, is that you can find that gateway in, because when you're younger you have a bit more access to coaches. It's a bit more standard that you go after school sports clubs. But when you're an adult, where do you find that? Where's your community that you can find and discover exercise maybe that you haven't had before? So I think that it is really exciting that I think, yes, to go into greatness, to go into elite, maybe there's a degree of, having the building blocks when you're young, but there's still no reason to not discover it later in life.
I agree. Yeah. So you had the doors almost opening for so many sports for you to try. How did the door open for you for rowing?
So rowing was something that was never on my horizon at all. I had been really sporty all through my youth. And then I went through uni, I did sports science. I was training to become a PE teacher. I was 21 years old, and London got the bid to host the Olympic Games. And 4 years before the Games, there was this talent ID program called Sporting Giants. And up and down the country, they tested people's height. And then we were asked to turn up for some physical testing for like strength and jump height and all these things. And at the age of 21, there wasn't one specific sport I was focusing on. I'd kind of left any hopes and dreams behind me. My mum called me up and said, "You should apply for this." And I applied, firmly believing that I made the 5'11" height criteria, and I turned up on the testing day, quickly realising I did not meet the height criteria. I was the shortest in the room by about 3 inches. And so I knew I had to physically push myself as much as possible. Off the back of that, I got asked if I would start rowing, a sport I'd never tried before. 4 years before the London Olympics, it seemed impossible. But I think although from the outside it looked like I started from zero, taking those first rowing strokes 4 years before the Games, actually it wasn't zero. All these other sports that you've done, all this, not just physical, but the mental kind of practice and how to push yourself and how to be dedicated in something, all came to fruition at the age of 21. And I find it the biggest kind of sliding doors moment in my life when I sort of said yes to rowing and started training and got to the London Games.
And did they mention London and the Olympics at that early stage?
Yeah, it was very much this is a recruitment drive to get you to the Games. It's to find people who could be good at sports they'd never tried before. So for the height criteria, it was rowing, handball and volleyball that they were testing for. And they siphoned you off into these different sports according to what they predicted you'd be good at. And then you met your coach, and that was it. I carried on teaching, so I was a PE teacher alongside the rowing training. And then 2 years before the London Games, me and my rowing partner Heather scraped onto the team as the very bottom spare boat. And 2 years later, we won gold at the Games. So it was like, this shouldn't be my sport. This shouldn't be my life. What is happening to me? People at uni knew me not being a rower. I was 4 years later standing on the podium in London. It was way too big for me to really comprehend, And
I mean, it's also crazy because you'll have had there will have been peers at your years of uni who are going rowing at the crack of dawn every morning and out practicing you. And then I guess because you have these 4 years that are set up to be as optimal as I guess they can be, with a great starting point as well, it then leads to this just trajectory that overtakes everyone else.
Yeah.
What happened in those 4 years that allowed for that?
So in the first year, I didn't even look like I was rowing. I was just falling out the boat. I was I was so far off the elite rower. And I truly didn't believe I'd get to the Olympics. I, hand on heart, thought my biggest consolation will be that when I watch the Olympics on TV in 2012, I'll know I tried. And that will be my prize, knowing that I didn't give up. And then the next year, I started to kind of get a little bit better. like I say, when I got onto the team, we were just kind of scraping by. But I think apart from hard work, which obviously is part of the game if you're going to be an athlete, hard work, I met the right people, an amazing coach, the most phenomenal teammate in Heather that I could ever ask for. A lot of great people around me, a lot of hard work, being in the right place at the right time. You know, there were so many factors, having a really supportive family, so many factors that came into that. But yeah, it's always something I look back and I think that if I hadn't been for that moment, and when the phone rang and they said, "We think you'd be a good rower, do you want to start rowing?" I nearly said no. You know, I was trying to pay off my student loan. I just got my first job as a PE teacher. It seemed like someone I'd never met before was saying I might be good at a sport I'd never tried before. Come on, get a real job, get into the real world. But again, that thought of sitting on the sofa and watching the games, knowing I hadn't tried, I think that would have been what killed me.
I mean, we spoke about like the joy and enjoying something to make it fun to keep you consistent. Was there an element of like, you don't know whether you like rowing? Do you want to spend 4 years devoted your life to this like thing you might not enjoy?
Yes, this is such an interesting point, is that I have always been the biggest advocate and lover of sport, and I've loved everything I've done until I met rowing.
Really?
And then like, I probably hated rowing for the first 2 years. And I think the only thing that kept me going was like, I have been gifted an amazing chance, an amazing opportunity. Even if I don't like it, I have to do it. I realised at the age of 21, never actually applied myself fully to anything before. There were things that I tried hard in, and there are things that I trained reasonably hard for, but retrospectively, that was within my definition of hard training. And I got shown a new definition when I started rowing, and it made me go, whoa, I've never committed myself to something like I've committed myself to this. And even though I probably cried every day for a year, I knew I was doing the right thing, and I knew that there could be something in it. And if there was something in it, then it would be worth it. So then I learned to love it.
And I guess also, presumably, because you're starting from a lower base than the other Olympians that you'll be racing against 4 years later, who are probably starting much higher, you're improving much faster, which is a really great positive feedback cycle. And that you're seeing improvement month on month, which is probably going to motivate you to keep going out the door. Do you almost think there's an element that like having to cram this journey into a shorter period of time makes it more exciting, more fast-paced and more refreshing, rather than someone who starts rowing at 12 and is 10 years into this exhausting journey and maybe a bit more burnt out? Will there be an element of that, you think, that played an effect?
I think so. I think if I'm like the stereotypical crammer, like night before a test, I'm revising, if there's a deadline, I'm doing it the night before. And that actually probably was what happened. That fear factor of, I've got to be ready for the London Olympics and I've got to do it now. There is no time. There is no time to wait. Every session counts. And so that mentality I really took to getting to the London start line. And then in the 4 years between London and Rio, I think because we won and wanted to be unbeaten, it was like that cramming fear factor for that 4 years. And it seems like 4 years is a long time to sustain that, but I think that is what I did. It was like every session matters, every session counts, because we can't let anyone get past us.
And does that change your love of it? Like for the first 4 years to London, you're the underdog, and then now you're a gold medalist. Like, did it affect how you felt in the week-on-week training journey and turning up to races?
It did, and I think you can only win quietly once. And once we had done that in London, I looked back and realised how enjoyable it was to do it quietly and to stay under the radar. Because the next 4 years, there was expectation, there was pressure on us. But one thing that I think really helped was that our coach, Robin, he's very grounded, and he reminded us every day that the journey is really important. And the journey between us and the relationship we created is what we're going to look back on and enjoy more than any of the wins. And so, yeah, even though the next 4 years were stressful and were full of pressure, they were full of moments where I woke up and I thought, I can't believe how lucky I am to be doing this. I cannot believe this is my job and this is my goal and this is what I wake up and do with my best friend. So I mainly felt lucky.
Yeah. Did you still wake up and thought like, what am I doing? Like 4 years ago, I'd never rowed, and now you're a gold medalist, and now you're like, should you be going for another Olympics? Like, was there any imposter syndrome, being like, maybe I was a one-trick pony kind of thing?
For sure, yeah. I think after that London, there was no doubt that I was going to carry on to Rio, because I just felt like I had to prove it to everyone, including myself. I didn't own that gold medal in terms of being able to call myself an Olympic champion. I was barely calling myself a rower, let alone an Olympic champion. Like, it sat with other people, not with me. I know, I think I probably put people on a pedestal that had done these things. And having done it myself, I'm like, hang on, people who do this are very normal, and they're disorganized, and they're last minute, and they've got so many human flaws. And it took me a while to accept that actually that's just part of what people are like. So when I went on to Rio, it was very much this, I've got to prove it to myself to feel like it belongs to me. Yeah.
I guess that was probably a good thing though, because it kept you so hungry, because there's so many people that get a gold. We've spoken to some amazing like gold medalists, and the thing that they always say is, because some people would get the gold and be like, what next? But they were always just like striving to be that little bit better. Was that always the case? You just wanted to beat like yourself, like your time before?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was always me versus me, rather than thinking too externally. Yeah, I definitely think that I'm probably someone who always feels there's something else I can do until I relax, until I rest. One more thing and then I'll be happy. And then you do that thing and then you go, that doesn't quite feel the way I thought it would feel. One more thing.
Does that ever come to an end? Like,
I hope so.
As in, like, are you currently still in the the mindset of you need that next thing to be happy, or are you like, you happy now and content? Like, does that ever end? And because in a way, if it doesn't, it could be it's like a silver lining in a way. It's you don't quite get to feel that joy that you've always been chasing.
I think that my joy for my rowing career is probably likely to come retrospectively. Like, when I know there are people who cross the line in that moment, feel total fulfillment, and they can, wash their hands with it. Whereas for me, I just feel like nothing's ever enough. But the further I get from moments, the more I appreciate them and go, it's a shame I maybe don't celebrate them as much in the moment, but I can do it now, and I can look back, and it's so long since London. I go, wow, yeah, that was awesome, and I'm so proud of myself, which I maybe didn't feel at the time. But then again, maybe that's how I motivate myself. Maybe that's what I need. But
you also said that the happiness is the journey. That by always wanting one more thing, it means you keep going on that journey. And that journey will change. It doesn't always need to be chasing a gold medal. It might be getting out the door and training for a half marathon or a half Ironman or whatever it's going to be. But like, that's the thing that keeps you out the door, keeps you exercising, keeps you moving, keeps you training with other people and being social, getting the endorphins. And there'll always be one more thing, but it's actually that one more thing is what keeps you engaging in the journey, which is ultimately what keeps us happy people and healthy.
Yeah, that's so true. I think when I was in full-time rowing training, I would sit there and fantasize about the day where I don't have a coach telling me what to do, and I don't have a race in the program, and I don't have anything to show up for. And it's this, how amazing would that feel? And then the time comes and you race your Olympic final, and within a month you're going, I need someone to tell me what to do. I need that exciting project. And so definitely I think I do work better with having something that is just like hovering there in the distance, whether it's a race, a challenge, and then there's this timeline of how to get there. And I'm being told a little bit of information, not as the full-on way as it was when you were in a rowing team, where you're showing up for 3 training sessions a day with your teammates, and it's all a lot of high pressure. But yeah, I think I do quite like the excitement of having a little bit of a reason to get out the door and train.
So was it hard to step away after Rio to have children and meet your amazing husband, Steve Backshall? Or did you always know that you were going to make that comeback into rowing?
No, after Rio, I was definitely done. Like, I had my 2 Olympic golds. Heather, my racing partner, she was definitely retiring. And it just made every logistical sense for me to retire too. I knew I wanted to start a family, and nobody had ever come back in the GB team to row once they'd started a family before. So there wasn't really even a debate or a question as to whether I
You
what I
kind of,
actually
you completed
wanted.
it. You want to have a family, therefore you have a family.
There's the answer. Yeah. So I'd never considered that I'd go to another Olympics. No way.
And when did you work out that there was another path, which is you can have a family and do more? How did that come around, and how did it go?
Well, I had the first year after Rio, I did like lots of different challenges, no rowing, but I did a marathon, I did a half Ironman, I did a kayaking challenge. Then in 2018, had my first child. In 2020, I had twins, and I was there ready to watch the Olympic Games that summer with my babies and watch my friends competing. And then when we went into lockdown and the Olympics got moved, I still had no thought of rowing or racing again. And the one dusty bit of gym equipment we had in our house in lockdown was this old rowing machine. So we got it out. And when the twins napped, I would go on the rowing machine, and the sound of the fan of the rowing machine was really calming to them. So they slept, as they napped longer, I rowed longer. And suddenly my scores started coming down. And I started to get this little really annoying competitive twinkle in my eye of being like, I just wonder if I could scrape onto the team. And I thought, why would I want to do that? And I think there were a couple of things. One is that I looked at my little girl, she's one of the twins, and I just thought, how can I physically show you that you can do these things? You can do things that are supposed to not be done. And not just you, but how can I show other women, other mums, other girls, what could I do that means something? And so I thought, yeah, give it a go. Try to get back training. I was rubbish at like baking sourdough or anything like that. So my project was going to be to try to get to Tokyo.
Do you think there was part of you that was like, I managed to do it in 4 years at the start of my career. I've got 4 years, like I can get
Well,
back.
I only had like a year. But I do think that played into it though, because I had done it once in that short time frame. And then also I think that your body is so good at holding on that like deep fitness. So even though there were so many things that within 4 years of not rowing I had lost, they were quite like superficial, that came back quite quickly. Having said that, it was the unique circumstances of lockdown that made it happen. Like I don't want, especially mums or people who are about to have families or anything, to think, oh my gosh, this is something that people are doing now. Like feel that pressure of doing everything, being everything. No, like Steve was around all the time. We were in the house. We had a rowing machine. It was something that if life had resumed as normal, I never would have considered. And that's mainly because of logistics. I didn't want to travel into training every day. I wanted to be with my kids. So it was like we just got gifted this moment in time which made something happen that would never have happened before.
Yeah, I do agree. Like it must be so hard for mums to like have that mum guilt. And was that hard, thinking that, yeah, is this all a bit selfish, like going back for my third Olympic cycle with my kids?
It was. There were definitely times where there was this pull of, why am I doing this? What's best? I think if it hadn't been locked down, I just wouldn't have done it. You know, that time, as soon as kind of the doors opened up a bit and we had to go into training, I suddenly realised I couldn't have done this for a year. And also being that you're kind of pioneering a little bit, because no one had really approached this with British rowing before and gone, yeah, I have babies and I also want to be in the building training. And you're a team sport, so I don't expect anyone to flex around my schedule because of my children, but equally they come first for me. So it's probably been the most difficult thing. I know it's definitely been the most difficult thing actually to manage through Tokyo and definitely through Paris, was trying to be a really good team player while looking after my family first. And there are so many things I would do differently now. And I look back and I think I probably wasn't selfish enough at times. And I probably didn't put my foot down enough at times, because probably trying to keep too many people happy. But it's a balance that my hope is that the next generation of women who have families who are rowing, and there will be lots of them, hopefully those hard conversations and those hard moments have happened already, and that things will be easier and better for them.
And probably the same in other sports beyond rowing as well.
Yeah.
Is there a part of you that now can look back and be extremely proud that your kids didn't just hear about the stories of your incredible rowing, but they got to see it?
I think so, yeah. And that was a massive thing with Paris, was going, well, Tokyo, I got on the team, I went out and raced with empty stands. It was so weird. Like, no one was there. And then we just flew back. And with Paris, I had this strong image of my kids there watching me get a medal around my neck and being there physically and looking up at them from a podium. And this really fueled my kind of idea about going back with them in tow. And so, yeah, it was a big thing.
And how does that moment feel?
It's really special. It's really special because I think that they couldn't care less right now, but in the future, I think it'll be something that they can look back and I hope be really proud that I stepped back in it for them to share the moment, and like not to share stories of, oh, when your mum was young before you guys came along, but actually no, this is what we did together. Look at what we've achieved and look at what you inspired me to do.
And there's probably an element that, like, marginal gains, having that motivation in training is the difference of the time you rode and half a second less.
I think so. And I think that when I was training, like pre-family, it was so my life. It was all encompassing. Everything was rowing. But then as a parent, I've had to become really good at compartmentalising. And I think that when I was in training, the quality of my sessions was so much better because every stroke, every minute I was there, I had to justify not being with my kids and like being out the house for. And I think and then when I got home, I always made this rule of when I walk in the door, I don't want my kids to ever tell whether I've had a good training session or a bad one. Leave the scores at the door, walk in and be mum. And I think that it works hand in hand. Being a mum made me a better rower, but definitely being a rower made me a better mum as well.
I like that. I think so much of being a high performance athlete is to be selfish, but what you just described is not being selfish, which is finding a way to like wear two hats and to leave that one behind, and probably as a way to then not take the same pressure where you're wearing that hat all day, every day, and you can't ever stop thinking about the times and the performance of your rowing. And when you have a bad day, actually, you have this other life you can jump into in a way, and it depressurizes that, which probably makes it easier to jump back into the training hat and take it on with fresh energy. I
think so. And I think that because I've had quite a long time now in elite sport, I've realised that there are so many different versions of yourself you can be, and it'll change through your life, and that's okay. And your definition of success will change through life, and that's okay. And I've met so many athletes who do things. Some people are incredibly focused to that selfish point, and that is what works for them. But some of the best athletes that I've ever met are not selfish at all, and are amazingly compassionate people who really put other people first. And I used to think, well, surely their performance will be compromised because of that. And actually, no, that's what brings out the best in them. And I'm thinking about a lot of my ex-teammates when I say that. And some of my kindest, warmest, most lovely ex-teammates happen to be the very best at what they do as well. And so I look at that and I think, yeah, that's what I'd really love to be like.
So Paris 2024, you were back on the podium, being the first ever British mother to have a medal in rowing, which is incredible. Do you feel fulfilled now, or are you still rowing?
I definitely feel fulfilled now. Yeah, I've not rowed really since Paris, and it's the first time I've actually had a break from rowing and just felt really completely happy. And maybe that's the moment I needed. Maybe I needed my kids to see that and share that and see the medal. And, I think that possibly that was the moment where I felt really, really complete. And like I don't have anything to prove to myself. But equally, I'd still get a lot of joy out of other challenges, other physical activity. And I think that's what I find exciting now, kind of looking around and going, right, what could I try now?
We brushed past it so quickly, but in the period after Rio, you said you did a marathon, you did a half Ironman. How did taking on these different challenges go? How did it feel doing something maybe where there's less pressure on them and a new different sport?
I really like the less pressure thing. Like when you turn up to any race as a rower, you're just so used to people kind of making assumptions about how you're going to do or predictions. But the freedom of going to an event, which I'm doing for the pure love of doing it, was so nice. And of course, I think as I started training, I started to kind of have in my mind ideas of times I wanted to do and of how I wanted to do. But that was pre-kids as well, so I was pretty much free to train as much as I wanted, which looks different now. So the challenges I'm doing now, I have to step back even further into my kind of humbleness of going, just remember, Helen, this is for fun. And, you're not going to win this thing. This is just for enjoyment and for, a reason to train, I guess.
What was harder, a half Ironman or a marathon?
Oh, that's it. I probably trained better for the marathon, so I probably didn't do great training for the half Ironman. So I found the run of the half Ironman. I was running this lap and I was thinking, how does anybody do a marathon at the end of an event? Like, how does anyone do a full Ironman? And I remember swearing to myself I was never going to do a full Ironman. And now it's probably like 9 years ago. And now I'm thinking, yeah, one day I think I'll do an Ironman. But yeah, I got to some dark places in the half Ironman.
almost more dark than some of those 2K sessions on the ergo.
Yeah, I should think so. Because I think that my body was just so conditioned to rowing, and then put that in a running sense. Definitely my knees don't love it. Yeah. And I think that that's what was challenging me. So in terms of engine, heart and lungs, I always feel really strong when I'm running or anything like that. But in terms of the tiny muscles that you forget exist, and I'm going, what on earth is that I'm feeling in my hip or in my quad or in my calves? Like, I suddenly had calves after I started running, which I just never needed when I was rowing. So the body's kind of finding it hard to find. There's no escaping it, is there, when you're that deep into a long endurance event?
Yeah.
I think one thing that I'd love to hear your thoughts on is that rowing kind of found you in this way. If it had been swimming or a different sport that suits your body, clearly you have the mentality, the willingness to try hard and push through and do something very hard. Do you think if it had just been a different sport, you'd have got to the same outcome?
I don't know. I don't know, but I think rowing does suit me, and also the people that I found in rowing suited me. So my coach Robin and my rowing partner Heather. If I'd found those people in those sports, you never know. But I think the combination in rowing is that it's a big cardio base, but you also have to be very physically strong. But there's a lot of technique involved as well. There's so much of it is fine millimeter technique, which you don't really get to see when you're watching on TV and you're just watching people racing as hard as they can.
Because I'm trying to think, because there are other sports that could mirror that, whether that's like swimming, which has a technique component, huge engine, or cycling.
I mean, I did some swimming when I was younger, like got to an okay level, but it was never something that I absolutely
maybe then
flew
swimming's
at.
a bad example, because the technique required is so high that jumping into swimming at 21 might mean that you're technically never going to catch up with those people who are fish in the water. But maybe cycling with the same support network and
maybe I think there's a really big crossover. Lots of rowers turn into cyclists, and there's been a few the other way as well. So there's definitely
all of the best cyclists I cycle with in my cycle club are all ex-rowers.
Really, like big lungs,
big engine, and then they basically realise that rowing in the water is somewhat impractical, and you can put a bike anywhere at any time of day, and then that's why it moves to cycling.
Although I guess body shape, body type, maybe rowers are a bit bigger than cyclists. I don't know.
Maybe I live in flat London, which means that being a heavy cyclist is less suboptimal.
You don't want to hit the hills as a rower cycling. We used to go on a 3-week cycle camp every year as part of our training, and we'd all be flying along and then get to these hills, and these lovely light cyclists would come zooming past us like it was nothing.
Wow. And at the moment, what is the current goal, the current focus?
So I'm training for the Oxford Half Marathon, which is that my app told me today was only in like 31 days or something scary like that. But it's actually been really, really nice to have something. I feel like the distance between me and the goal was never too far. Like if I said, this time next year I want to be doing something, I probably wouldn't have started till another 6 months. So I've had a couple of months to kind of I found getting back into running always takes a long time. If I haven't run, I do like very short runs and feel like, how is this 13 miles ever going to happen? Like 2 miles, 3 mile runs. My knees are feeling it and I'm thinking I'm just plodding along. But then what I love is how quickly, once you get over those first couple of runs, how quickly your body starts to kind of adapt. And I mean, I'm not at the mileage yet that I want to be at, but I'm getting there.
How are you feeling for it? Are you excited or dreading it?
I'm really excited. I feel like I'm at the point now where I know my fitness is good enough to go and have a day that I enjoy. And get around the course and soak it in. And I think to be in the atmosphere with other people who just are excited to be there and love what they're doing, I think that it's always a positive energy around these kind of events.
Will you be able to put your competitive side aside, or will you be like, okay, I've got to race every single person here? Like, yeah.
I think I have to, because if I go in there competitively, I will fly and die. Like I haven't got any pace at the moment. That's my issue. So I definitely need to give myself a talking to at the start line and say, you're not going to race everybody out there.
Are you kinder to yourself in training as well, in the way that, not necessarily kind, but what you referred to quite rightly and clearly a superpower in a way, was that every rowing session had to be perfect to justify the time away from the kids. Are you as hard on yourself going out on a easy fun run training workout ahead of a leisurely half marathon?
Yeah, I'm definitely way kinder, especially now. And I don't know why, but I've just found this happy place in running. And I think maybe because the first few ones were really difficult and I was thinking my body hurts. And now I found a place where not every run, but a lot of runs just feels nice to be moving, and I can put my music on and I'm not really looking at my speed. I think it also helps that a lot of my runs I've been doing are on coastal paths and cliff paths, and it's just forces you to slow right down and also to be like looking where your feet are going and not twisting your ankles or falling off over a cliff. And so I think your focus in that moment is where you are, like the feeling of your hands on the rocks if you're scrabbling up a cliff face or something like this. And so that kind of training has just made me go, speed doesn't matter, don't trip over, just keep moving. Just almost like time on my feet has been more what I've been thinking about rather than just running and running.
It's almost like returning to that play that you started with that got you into movement in the first place.
Yeah, and like the energy I get from being out on the cliffs and the waves crashing and feeling, especially now we're kind of getting into the seasons where the weather's changing and there's a bit more like you run through a rain shower and feel invincible and everyone's looking at you like you're crazy. And I really like that organic style of physical activity.
I guess also so much of rowing and being on an ergo specifically is splits based, numerical based, and actually being able to be out at peace and enjoy nature and the endorphins is probably a very big shift and refreshing in a way.
I think so. I think if you're a rower and you're indoors, you're either lifting or you're on the row machine and it's sterile and there's judgment involved because there are numbers. And then when you're in the water, not a stroke goes by where your coach isn't watching and analysing and critiquing. And I'm like, this is just me. And I do sometimes tell myself, no one will know, like no one's judging me on this. And even if I was to like post a split time or something, I'm a rower. It doesn't matter what that split time is, And I think that actually it's important to remind myself not to wait till something's perfect to talk about it, to enjoy it or to celebrate it, because it's just now I'm doing this much more for me.
And also, to be perfect at anything is the years of hard work that go into that perfect. So the years are the bit worth sharing, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that when people say to me now, like, oh, do you want to win? Do you want to win different things? And my answer is always, well, not if I haven't trained for it or tried for it, because actually I know what it takes to win top events and to win big events. And it wouldn't feel the same. It'd be like an empty win if you go and you're just good at everything. So much of it is like we were saying about the journey, so much of it is the hours that you put in, and that is why you feel so good after. You feel so good after, no matter, even if it's not winning, even like completing for so many people. Like, I mean, an Ironman, imagine just like how amazing it would be to complete an Ironman. And that's what I think now it feels like for me when I complete these events. Like, that is the buzz.
I think it's the difference between fun and satisfaction. Like fun is easy to obtain, but is empty very quickly. In terms of you can go and play on the PlayStation, you can go and do something that doesn't lead to any like long-term outcome, and you do it in the moment, you're happy, and then immediately you forget about it. But what's great about whether it's training for half marathon or rowing is that it's really hard, but it's just about achievable, that then you have this like longer feeling of happiness and fulfillment, and it needs to be hard. And if you manage to get a big victory in a sport without having to try very hard, it would probably feel quite fun and not very fulfilling. And you need to put in the hard to get that actual feeling of satisfaction at the end.
I think what's so good about running is that everyone's definition of hard and of success is so different. Like if you race your first 5K or run your first 5K, that is the same level of satisfaction as the person who's run their first marathon. And I think that is the unique brilliance about running, is that it's not this set thing. Like the answer is this. Like in rowing, the answer is a 2K race. But there are so many ways to be versatile with it. And even if you're going out and you are just having a run for fun, and suddenly you realise you've like done a new top of a Strava segment or something, suddenly that burst of adrenaline turns into a really great part of a run, even if it wasn't a great one in the whole. There are so many different parts you can take away from running, I think, which is probably why it was my first thing that made me realise I love sport.
I love this conversation. It is so full circle, and I'm so pleased you're loving running, and it's super inspiring that I know I could make it to the Olympics in 4 years.
Definitely, why not?
You said it now, Anya.
But yeah, we are gonna segue over into Steph's coaching tip of the week.
My advice today is all about the taper and how to embrace it. Just before your race, your training volume will start to decrease so that you can freshen up ahead of race day. This sometimes feels counterproductive and we feel like we might be getting less fit. But you need to remind yourself that the goal is to feel fresh and have that extra boost come race day. If we train too hard, then we just won't recover in time. Use the extra time that you have on your hands to focus on your recovery. Put your feet up, get good sleep, and do the little things like stretching and mobility work that you might not have had time for before.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by the Runna app, the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide. If you want to try the app today, use code podcast25 for 2 weeks totally for free. And please do remember to rate, follow and subscribe to us on your listening platform to help us climb the rankings and so that we can keep bringing you the most interesting and amazing guests.
Thanks for that, Steph. I'm going to bring us back with our myth that I would love your thoughts on, Helen. This one is: sports where you swim, run, row or cycle in a straight line are boring.
I mean, there's definitely some truth in it. Training's really boring a lot of the time. There's definitely a certain type of person, I think, that especially swimming, I always think like you're just looking at a line as you're swimming in a straight line. Rowing, really boring some days. Special type of person that does it.
I think, and it's not just straight lines, it's running in boring circles, running around a track or whatever it is, but I think it's inherently the difference between what the human body can do and what a group of people can do as a team. Like that, the tactical component of football and having that all come together is what leads to winning a tournament week in, week out and scoring great goals. Whereas like there are so many less variables in how strong you are in a straight line, which almost makes it more about your physical body. Whereas you could probably have a group of football players who you test, who win the league, who maybe don't win the bleep test against someone who came 10th. But because they have this perfect gel and harmony and all these other variables work in their favor, they win. And it's partly like there is nothing to measure other than your muscular strength and aerobic capacity at that one sport, which kind of makes it really interesting in the reverse point.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more variables you put in, the more it could be anyone's game, I guess. But in terms of strip that back, and probably the fittest person's going to win, and that's quite cool.
I agree. I think like the harder like a challenge is mentally, also I feel like more rewarded for completing. Like if I go on a long bike ride and explore, that is like more of just like an adventure for me. Whereas if it was like a session on a turbo, I feel like I've really achieved something and pushed my mind and my body at the same time.
And I think also when you're running, I'm like going back to when I was a young teen and I was running laps and with at track. I do think there's something in that striving, and every 400 meters you're going to get something. You're going to get an instant result of like what your time was, what speed you're going at. And I think that even though that bit seems boring in terms of from the outside, nothing changes. Your internal dialogue is changing all the time. Your self-talk, your self-motivation. There's so much going on mentally, almost the less there is going on the extremities.
And there's probably an element that, like, yes, it can be a bit boring, but like that's also what you said, which was the mental practice that you had doing that boring running is why you were able to sit on a turbo and train for 4 years like a beast.
Yeah.
And if you had been motivated by the play of kicking the ball around and seeing the reaction and the smile of your friend on the football pitch, and you don't have that anymore, because you're now doing something that's all about you, you don't have that same strength. So whether the answer is boring or not, I think the answer is that they probably suit different people.
I agree, but I think that also when people ask me, how did you sit on the rowing machine for 2 hours at a time, or my answer is always self-talk. Like, the power of self-talk as an athlete is unbelievable, and I think it underpins almost everything in terms of training and performance. But one thing that really excites me is that it's not just there or it isn't there, it's trainable. It's so trainable, and that can be self-talk in terms of going to a job interview or standing on the start line of a race. The way you talk to yourself can always be something you improve. And I think I didn't start off my career sitting on a rowing machine for 2 hours. I started off 15 minutes and finding that boring and finding a way to motivate myself through it. And then that gets 5 minutes longer each time. It's the same with running. People don't just go out and run their first ultra. They build up to it. And the whole time, without even realizing it, they're developing new psychological strategies of almost like living in the boredom, I guess.
And it's also practice. Like, as you said, it's building up gradually. And maybe it's a bad example, but I feel the same, and I have the same logic to working, like to being in an office. Like the first time when I was getting started and we started working from an office, I was like, how am I going to do that for a whole day? And like, I'm kind of used to it now, and it feels normal. But it means that now in the reverse, if I have like a 3-hour training session to do, I'm like, oh, well, it's only like a quarter of the working day. Like, that would be easy.
It's how you frame it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I think it's all about relative framing, and that like you could position 2 hours on the turbo as like so hard, so impossible. Sprinting for 10 seconds is exhausting. How are you going to do it for doing 2,000 times longer? Or you could say, this other thing I do for 8 hours is hard. I'm only got to do it for 2 hours. It'll be over in a doddle. And I think it's why, like, when someone's running a marathon and they're 35k through or 37k through, there's a park run to go. It's easy to imagine that finish. And we should always just try, like, we should be kind to ourselves, not the other way around, and frame something relative to something that's harder to make what we're doing now easy. Because all that matters is how we perform in this thing or how we get through it. So rather than considering a 2-hour stint on the ergo as doing 4 park runs, instead it's only the half marathon or whatever it's going to be. But yeah, I do break things down into meetings. I'm like, I would rather a 2-hour turbo than I would 4 30-minute meetings. Anyway, should we move on to our this or that?
Yes. Okay. Would you rather, Helen, do a marathon tomorrow or an Ironman at the end of the month?
Marathon tomorrow.
Really?
Oh, not that I'm saying it's any confidence that I could actually do it.
We're free.
No, that's not because I would do the marathon tomorrow. It's because the thought of an Ironman, how hard that would be. I know marathon is hard, but a month is not long enough.
That's only 4 weeks. You can do crazy
all right, sign me
things.
up.
Because I actually thought almost that it's the opposite to what you said. Like, if you've got 3 weeks where you train, like, do everything you could possibly do, you're going to finish it knowing, like, you did your best. Whereas,
but do you think you can really? So say we did that. How much training
you could
I
probably
do now?
2 weeks of good training, a week of recovery, taper, and now you're racing an Ironman.
So you think training that you did now would actually be beneficial?
I would. It's obviously not the optimal training block for anyone who's signing up for an Ironman. But I think it would be better. You would be better doing an Ironman in a month than you would be doing an Ironman tomorrow, without doubt. Even just like practicing with the equipment, making sure that you're comfortable sitting on your bike saddle for that long, and all of those pieces will be productive. It's not going to be as productive if you did a 9-month block.
That is probably one of my weaknesses is faff of stuff and kit. I'm not good at like techie stuff, setup of a bike. Swimming, I'm fine because you just swim. Running, I'm fine. Biking, I love cycling, but when it goes past the basics of a bike, that might be something in an Ironman. But there you go, I've got a month to practice.
Well, if it comes to one day going from the half to the full, making sure that you are comfortable on the bike is going to be the most important thing you can do.
I think you'd do an Ironman considering you did one last week.
Well, I actually don't. I think I would. I love doing an Ironman, and my focus of every year is probably to do my Ironman. But in a month's time, I wouldn't be good enough to do the best Ironman I could do. Whereas I think I could crunch out a marathon. I could crunch out a marathon tomorrow, and I could crunch out a suboptimal Ironman in a month. So I think I'd rather.
What time do you reckon you'd get if you ran a marathon tomorrow?
I think I could kind of do around a sub 3 narrowly, but not much better than that.
What would you rather do, Anya?
A marathon, just because that's what I'm more trained for.
I wonder who's more likely to do an Ironman out of you two.
That's a good question.
You're both half Iron women.
But you're good at cycling, aren't you?
Not yet, but with some training, I'd like
there.
to be. Yeah, don't know.
How unlikely are you to do a full Ironman? Because you said it would be the most daunting thing, and you would never want to go further.
I said never, and now I'm saying I actually really would like to do one day. Yeah, I think maybe it's a point when I have time to work it around kids' schedules when they're maybe a little bit older.
Get a tandem bicycle.
Tandem, yeah. There we go.
Okay, next one. Would you rather row or run the length of the UK?
I think it'd be quite cool to row it.
Okay, what about row the perimeter of the UK or run the length?
Oh, I think row the perimeter. I feel like running the length has been done a lot, and rowing would be. I think that would be quite I'd choose the right time of year because it would just be pretty brutal. But
how long would that take?
I don't know.
I don't know, but I've got this image of me and you in a rowing boat trying to row the UK.
Why?
I don't know. It would just be so
Neither of us know how to row, Anya.
There we go. I'll teach you. You can sign up.
We'll take the next podcast episode from sea.
Yeah.
This kit's waterproof, right?
We will still be going by the time we next record.
Yeah, it'll be a very, very long recording.
Okay, last one. Would you rather fuel your session with Marmite flavoured energy gels or a Guinness flavoured energy bar?
Ooh, Marmite? Yeah, I'm going Marmite, yeah.
What would you rather?
I don't really like either, to be honest. Although I'm not a lover or a hater of Marmite. I'm very take it or leave it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, no, I'm an anomaly, I think. But I think I would have to go for the Marmite gel because I feel like you can get a gel down easier than you can chew on a bar, and I have to taste that for a while.
What do you have when you're training? Do you sweet or savoury? During runs.
During runs, sweet gel.
Yeah.
But what I'm really enjoying about cycling at the moment is that I can actually eat whilst
proper food
and bars and things. So I'm kind of leaning towards a bar. Yeah. There we go.
Our final question we love to ask everyone is to design your dream race, and it doesn't need to be a run. It doesn't need to be. It could be a rowing race. It could be a triathlon. It could be any multi-sport of your choosing. What would be your dream race? So for you, what is the sport? What are they doing? How far are we going? And then we'll ask you what the food and drink is at the finish line and who's giving out the award.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I would have like a multi-stage, multi-day endurance event.
So is it a sport per day?
Or
Or is it like it's continuous and it runs
it's going to be
over?
continuous. There's going to be running, kayaking, rowing, bit of cycling maybe. And I think it's going to be in New Zealand. It's going to be swims across open lakes, kayaks down rivers. It's going to be a mountain ascent.
You finish at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that's a good finish line. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's going to be a peak of a mountain finish line. and it's going to take maybe 3 days.
Continuous.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a couple of compulsory stops.
Okay.
Maybe 3-4 hours that you got to sleep, refuel. Not carrying your own stuff. I'm
No,
going to
I
say
agree
there's
with
some energy stations. Bit of luxury, camp set up for you when you get in. And who's going to be presenting the prizes? You guys, the runner team. There we go.
And what food and drink would you have at the finish line?
Cornish pasties.
Wow, I mean, this sounds like quite the holiday.
Come to New Zealand.
If you can organise this for us,
Okay.
can we participate and then give out the awards? Because otherwise we'll have loads of FOMO just watching.
I mean,
everyone
you'll
the
have
fun.
to win it to be there for everyone else to get. I'll do a long run section so you guys get a good.
It'd be
start.
quite fun to do it in pairs, so you could both row together and like run together and swim.
Do a
Well,
tandem kayak.
there's
tandem
swim
row.
run as a sport. I don't know if you come across swim run where you're bound to your.
I've done
partner.
one.
You've done
yeah,
one,
but I did
okay.
it solo, and there were people who were tied to their partners.
So there's also the Norfolk Superhero. I'm from Norfolk, which is a triathlon, but with one of the legs also being a kayak, so it's 4 legs.
Yes,
You'd be so good at that.
I do like the
And you do it
idea
in
of paired sport that is not just a swim run.
Yeah. Okay.
It'd be very
There we
fun.
go. We'll do it as pairs.
And who would be your partner? Would it be a woman, a man?
I
Partner?
would get Heather involved, my
Okay.
old rowing partner.
Oh.
Yeah, bring her back out of retirement, and
She's not going to be really annoyed that you've now made her like run up this New Zealand mountain and do all of this
oh, she'll
endurance.
love
So she'll be up
it.
for it.
She'll love it. Yeah, she's in the army. She can be chief navigator
Okay.
because that's one thing.
Oh, is it self? You have to navigate, or are you allowed?
No, I'm gonna lay out the course because navigation is definitely not my strong point.
Okay. This sounds fantastic, though.
Yeah.
We can't wait. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us your incredible mindset journey and everything in between. And it is truly inspiring. And I think to see you smile as you talk through all of these different challenges, I think what the biggest learning is for anyone. If you can learn to be as happy as you are, challenging yourself, you'll do incredible things. So thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me as part of the Runner team.